It's been a key phrase throughout John's gospel. His hour had not yet come. Or Jesus saying himself, my time is not yet here. The religious rulers had tried to seize him and silence him, but they couldn't, because his hour hadn't yet come. God was sovereign over Jesus' earthly ministry. He was sovereign over the timetable. No one would touch Jesus until, in the sovereign plan of God, it was time. And now his hour has come. How does Jesus prepare for the greatest agony he will ever experience? Let's see what unfolds. I'm in John chapter 13, verse 1, reading from the New American Standard Version.
Now, before the feast of the Passover, Jesus, knowing that his hour had come, that he would depart out of this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. During supper, the devil having already put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come forth from God and was going back to God, got up from supper and laid aside his garments, and taking a towel, he girded himself.
Look at all that is happening on a spiritual level. The devil is playing his own chess game. He's got Judas Iscariot, a man in Jesus' inner circle, working for him. The devil has already put his plans into Judas's heart. He wants Judas to betray Jesus. If the devil can put Jesus to death, darkness can reign once again. Or so he thinks. And on a spiritual level, of course, Jesus knows all. He knows his hour has come. He knows the Father has given all things into his hands. And he knows he's going back to the Father. So in this time of heightened everything, what does he do? Continuing verse 5.
Then he poured water into the basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and to wipe them with the towel with which he was girded. So he came to Simon Peter. He said to him, Lord, do you wash my feet? Jesus answered and said to him, what I do you do not realize now, but you will understand hereafter. Peter said to him, never shall you wash my feet. Jesus answered him, if I do not wash you, you have no part with me. Simon Peter said to him, Lord, then wash not only my feet, but also my hands and my head. Jesus said to him, he who has bathed needs only to wash his feet, but is completely clean. And you are clean, but not all of you. For he knew the one who was betraying him. For this reason he said, not all of you are clean.
Imagine being invited to dine with a king, and after dinner, the king suddenly rises, takes your plate, and begins to wash dishes. You would be shocked. This is infinitely more personal than washing dishes, and more shocking because it's the King of Kings. Foot washing was needed since they walked everywhere on dusty and dirty roads and pathways. But lowly servants did the foot washing. What was Jesus doing? Peter reacted, saying what was probably on everybody's mind, Lord, do you wash my feet? Jesus said, what I do, you do not realize now, but will understand hereafter. Clearly, he's conveying that it's not about what you see me doing. It's not about the physical foot washing. This is symbolism. It symbolizes the need to be cleansed of sin. If I do not wash you, you have no part with me. Peter has believed in Jesus. So Jesus assures him, you are clean. And he says, but not all of you. I wonder if Judas felt that in his gut. I wonder how Judas felt when Jesus got to him and washed his feet along with the rest. Jesus was also demonstrating his heart as a servant. Continuing verse 12.
So when he had washed their feet and taken his garments and reclined at the table again, he said to them, do you know what I have done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you are right, for so I am. If I then, the Lord and the teacher, washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I gave you an example that you also should do as I did to you. Truly, truly, I say to you, a slave is not greater than his master, nor is one who is sent greater than the one who sent him. If you know these things, you are blessed if you do them.
Peter and the others not only couldn't see Jesus washing their feet, they couldn't see themselves washing each other's feet. These were the ones who were arguing in Luke 22 about who was the greatest among them. So Jesus tells them, oh, what I did was an example of what you need to do. Jesus, Lord and teacher, modeled servanthood and humility. He expects the same from those who follow him, and he even promises a blessing for doing so. Continuing verse 18.
I do not speak of all of you. I know the ones I have chosen, but it is that the scripture may be fulfilled. He who eats my bread has lifted up his heel against me. From now on, I am telling you before it comes to pass, so that when it does occur, you may believe that I am he. Truly, truly, I say to you, he who receives whomever I send receives me, and he who receives me receives him who sent me. When Jesus had said this, he became troubled in spirit and testified and said, truly, truly, I say to you, that one of you will betray me. The disciples began looking at one another, at a loss to know of which one he was speaking.
What is on Judas's mind? How do you plot to betray Jesus, knowing he knows exactly what you're up to? And Judas had to know that Jesus knew. Back in chapter 6, Jesus said to the disciples, did I myself not choose you, the 12? And yet one of you is a devil? But if Judas was blind to the fact that Jesus knew what he was up to, he certainly knows now. Jesus is looking around the table telling them that one of them will betray him. Matthew 26:25 tells us that Judas actually said, surely it is not I, Rabbi. Jesus replied, you have said it yourself. Continuing verse 23.
There was reclining on Jesus' bosom one of his disciples whom Jesus loved. So Simon Peter gestured to him and said to him, tell us who it is of whom he is speaking. He, leaning back thus on Jesus' bosom, said to him, Lord, who is it? Jesus then answered, that is the one for whom I shall dip the morsel and give it to him. So when he had dipped the morsel, he took and gave it to Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot. After the morsel, Satan then entered into him. Therefore Jesus said to him, what you do, do quickly. Now no one of those reclining at the table knew for what purpose he had said this to him. For some were supposing, because Judas had the money box, that Jesus was saying to him, buy the things we have need of for the feast, or else that he should give something to the poor. So after receiving the morsel, he went out immediately, and it was night.
The one whom Jesus loved reclining on his bosom, is believed to be the writer of this gospel, John. You can just see them. Peter saying, "Who is it? I know you know." John is like, "I don't know. Lord, who is it?" Jesus says it's the one for whom he dips the morsel and gives it. And he gives it to Judas. And you expect them to all turn to Judas in shock. But the other disciples still don't seem to get it. Maybe because traditionally, if a host dipped a piece of bread and gave it to one of the guests, it was considered an honor. But at the moment Jesus gives the morsel, Satan enters into Judas. Satan is in the room at the Last Supper. When Jesus says, "What you do, do quickly," he's talking to his age-old adversary, the devil. And Jesus' words are obeyed. Judas and the devil leave immediately. Such ominous words as it says, "And it was night. Darkness has descended." Continuing verse 31.
Therefore, when he had gone out, Jesus said, "Now is the Son of Man glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself, and will glorify him immediately. Little children, I am with you a little while longer. You will seek me, and as I said to the Jews, now I also say to you, where I am going, you cannot come. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, even as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this all men will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another."
As Jesus prepares to leave, he's focusing on how the disciples are to treat one another. They're to wash one another's feet, serve one another, and they're to love one another. That will be the mark of disciples of Jesus, having love for one another. But look what the standard is. Jesus said, "Love one another as I have loved you." Continuing verse 36.
Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, where are you going?" Jesus answered, "Where I go, you cannot follow me now, but you will follow later." Peter said to him, "Lord, why can I not follow you right now? I will lay down my life for you." Jesus answered, "Will you lay down your life for me? Truly, truly, I say to you, a rooster will not crow until you deny me 3 times.
Jesus has given them a new commandment, a very big deal. Love one another as I have loved you. But I wonder if Peter even heard it. He stuck on what Jesus said before that. Where I am going, you cannot come. Peter's like, wait a minute, where are you going? Jesus tells him, you can't follow now, but you will later. Peter has no idea that he is headed to a brutal death on the cross. So he says, why can't I follow you now? I'll lay down my life for you. Luke's gospel tells us that the same devil who entered Judas also wanted Peter. Jesus told Peter, Simon, Simon, behold, Satan has demanded permission to sift you like wheat, but I have prayed for you. The battle in the heavenlies is real. Praise God that Jesus intercedes for us. But in this moment, how sobering for Peter to hear that he will deny Jesus 3 times. Jesus knows that his hour has come. He knows he will only be with his disciples for a little while longer. So what's his focus in this chapter? It's all about how they were to regard one another. Jesus even went so far as to rise during dinner and demonstrate the heart they were to have toward one another. We see their heart to cling to Jesus. John is reclining next to him. Peter claims he'll follow him to the death. But the fruit of clinging to Jesus is having love for others, having a heart to serve others. They needed to grow in this area. I guess we all could use growth in this area. As we cling to the Lord, I pray our love for Him shows in how we love and serve others.